So that's our kinesiology department is putting that on. But tonight, like I said, we are excited to welcome some former TCC students. So I want to introduce them to you briefly. Then we have some questions, and then be thinking about what questions you want to ask, because there will be time for you to ask questions. So first of all, these are in alphabetical order. We have Josh Ayala. He is currently an engineer. He's a senior component engineer at Lockheed Martin. Kind of a cool thing about Josh, he started out at TCC at a very young age doing college for kids. So I don't know if you know that, but we have a summer program, College for Kids, and he did that. And he also, even though he is a STEM guy, he started college out as a music major, wanting to study saxophone. So that's kind of cool. And then next, we have Holly Basham here at the other end of the table. Holly came to TCC, then went on to Texas Women's University to earn her bachelor's in nursing. She's currently working as a nurse in a surgery center in Keller, but she was also a supervisor for an operating room at Texas Health Southlake. Kind of a cool thing about Holly, both of her children have also attended TCC, so that's really cool. We also have Cameron Grant right here. Cameron came to TCC, and then he went on and got his bachelor's in horticulture at Texas A&M. Cool thing about Cameron, he loved TCC so much that he now works here. We couldn't keep him away. So he'll have a lot of good stuff to share. He is passionate about helping workforce development in horticulture. So that's very cool. And then we also have Daisy Guerrero. She's down here. Our biology and kinesiology people have teamed up. Daisy was a kinesiology student here. She went on to get her bachelor's and her master's at UNT. She is a certified adapted physical education specialist, so that's really cool. She actually serves as the scientific officer for a nonprofit in India. So having come to TCC and influencing the whole world. So that's really cool. Also, Daisy told me she's currently working towards her PhD. So very cool. And then last but not least, we have Mark Hopp. Mark came to TCC. He's another one that came and then came again. So that can't be right. I have a typo on there. Well, yeah, but it says 2008 to 2001. Was that supposed to be 14? No? 20, yeah, maybe 2010? 11. That's my mistake. But he got an Associate of Arts degree here. Then he went on to UTA Business, and he currently works as a data analyst. And I think the story there is, tell me if I'm wrong, he came back and got a certificate to be able to do that. We'll learn more. Kind of a cool thing about Mark, he started in a call center, and he has worked his way up to, thanks to continuing education. So, now that we know them, I'm going to let Katie and Catalina are going to ask them some questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's start with your beginnings. So we want to start with the question of what originally drew you to a STEM major?
Okay. Yeah, so what drew me to a STEM major was my first year going back to college. I was going to pursue a career in landscaping, but then my second semester I took a course at the Northeast campus. It was a botany class. And taking that class, it kind of like made me realize that like plants are like this really cool thing that like they're like a living, breathing system that like is constantly adapting and thriving in different environments, and that really kind of like gained my interest. Like plants are doing all of these amazing things around us, and we really don't even know like what they're really doing. So yeah, so that really drew me to STEM pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, so what drew me to STEM or engineering and specifically is number one, I was really good at math, so I kind of figured that could help. And I liked all of the flexibility that engineering had, especially electrical engineering. I felt like there were a lot of job opportunities when I would be done. And there's so many different fields that you can do with electrical engineering that I didn't want to be stuck doing one thing, which is why I left saxophone. And also I wanted to make a lot of money, so.
Good reason. We wanted to ask another question of what made you choose to start at a community college as opposed to starting it on a different path?
Is it? Oh, okay. So I decided to start at community college because it's just more cost effective. You also don't know what you're really transitioning to. You go from high school and then to university and you kind of maybe lose yourself a little bit. I think community college is a good way to start and ease your way into something bigger.
And I could take this one too. I came from the generation that we were essentially told that, you just cast a wide net, go to whatever college that you get accepted into. And when I started doing research on some of these colleges and I saw the price, I was thinking there is no way I could afford any of that. And at the time that I came to TCC, it was only $50 a credit hour, and I don't think it's that much more than that, but that's a lot better than $500 a credit hour.
So we also wanted to know, was there a class or instructor here who had a meaningful impact on any of you?
Yes, I had Dina Burr from my microbiology class. She had a great impact on me and friends of mine who are also in the nursing career. Just with the format of her class, her education, her PowerPoints weren't just, I was not being read a PowerPoint, which I absolutely hate. Hers were information that we had to pick the knowledge out of and helped me study. Her questions on the exam, although I didn't love it, were select all that apply, and you either got it right or you got it wrong, and I didn't love that either, but it was exactly what I needed to go on into my nursing career and get ready for my bachelor's degree. So thank you so much.
Next, we would like to talk about your time at TCC. First question, what resources did you find most helpful while you were at TCC, such as tutoring, office hours, advisors, clubs, or anything else?
Okay, I'll go first. I think number one, office hours were super helpful when I was struggling. I would go basically every day, and I built a really good relationship with my teachers, and just made me feel more confident in the class. And also, I would say that TCC is super chill, and you might feel more open to talking with your classmates than in bigger universities. And talking with your classmates and making study groups can help a ton, especially if you get a text like, "Don't forget the homework's due today," people that have your back. So that's what I would say.
I think for me, whenever you're in classes here, you get to know your peers more versus when you're in a university. So you're more likely going to build study groups. When I had to take anatomy per se, they had a specific student in that class that had already taken it before. They passed the course and they were now hosting tutoring sessions, which that really was very helpful. Professors are also more willing to talk to you and just pop in. They're not scary people. They want to help you. Also the Disability Services Office, if you have a disability, take your services, do your accommodations. Everybody's very respectful of it and they're willing to help you out in any way they can.
Thank you. Were there any habits or skills you developed here that helped you later on?
I always said if I took anything away from my time in college, it was that I learned how to research and I learned how to cherry pick facts to fit my narrative. And what I do now is very heavily research based, so it helps to pick up that practice for what we do.
Okay, and I would say was terms of like moving on to UNT, which I did, figuring out how to take good notes for myself was really helpful. I like a lot of colored pens, and I picked the same journal and I bought that every single year. You know, my formatting of my notes helped a lot so that I know how much I need to pay attention, and you know, some people just have to listen the whole time. So finding the study habits that work for you.
What challenges did you face and how did you work through them?
So for me, some of the hardest challenges I actually faced were not school related. They were actually personal related. So for me, I am a husband. I am a father of 2 daughters. During the time while I was in school, I worked in the mornings as a student worker. Then I would take classes during the afternoon, and then at nighttime, I would work at a restaurant. So I stayed pretty busy during that time. So one of the biggest sacrifices I would say I had to make was in my personal life. And one of the things that got me through it was my faith in God, my wife, and my children, who are right over there. And they kind of like kept me focused on the end goal, and that pretty much like was my motivation every day, pretty much. So.
As Cameron just mentioned, the personal struggles of family life would also be what I said were my challenges, because I came to school as an adult learner. I was in my late 30s when I finally came back to school, and I was a mom, and I had kids, and I had a husband. I had a job. I also worked at a restaurant, so it was convenient to work with my school schedule, but that's a lot to balance. And so I think it's really important to have the support system, not just at school, but at home. And if you don't have that support system at home, the benefit of being here is that you can get that from your faculty, from your classmates. There's going to be people who are going to encourage you along that way to help you get to your goal. So if you don't have it at home, find it here because it's available.
That was interesting. Thank you.
So we want to ask you questions about what it was like, the transition from TCC to transfer to another school, or just to the future path that you had. So how smooth was your transfer process, and what's something that you wish that you kind of known ahead of time?
So my transfer process was actually very smooth. I kept in regular contact with our counselors, and they were able to keep me on track with what classes I needed to take. At the time, and I'm sure it's still the case now, TCC had a relationship with UTA, so in our counselor's office, there were sheets for classes that would transfer between the two. And you kind of go in, talk about your major, and then they were able to show us what classes I could take that would go towards that major. As for what I wish I had known ahead of time, I was scared to death going from the community college to the university. I kind of put it on a pedestal. I thought of it as, you know, a higher level that, you know, I wasn't worthy for. But what really helped me was that, you know, a lot of the classes, for me at least, kind of, they were around the same level of difficulty. On top of that, I had some teachers that also taught at UTA. So, you know, knowing that they were teaching at TCC and at UTA, it wasn't some kind of extra difficult process. It was just, you know, they're people. And I was able to go in and, you know, learn, and it was made for a smooth process. Also, once I got to UTA, I found out that there were still classes that I could take at TCC to save me some more money. So once I got there, I was taking some classes here and some classes there, and further save some more money.
Okay, well, Mark killed it with that answer, but I would agree that I've heard stigma in some of my engineering classes that maybe take a math class at UNT, not at a community college, but as someone who also taught here, math classes here, I think that all of the classes I took here were very top tier and prepared me for the future curriculum that I had. And I like that there's plenty of guides and stuff that help you show you what classes transfer, and also you guys know how expensive it is at UNT and other places. So save your money and take some classes here. I think it's very worth it. I encourage all of my friends or anyone who's lost or trying to figure out what to do to take a few classes here. I feel like there's a lot of value added for the cost. So yeah, it was a great experience.
I like that you talked about like the caliber of classes here, because that brings us to our next question, where we wanted to know what y'all think, how your university classes compared to your TCC classes, and like how did they differ and in what ways?
I think Josh and Mark did a wonderful explanation of how that went. But yeah, I agree. Sometimes there is a stigma of, no, you should take university classes because they look better on a transcript. But honestly, I feel like if you take a class here, you get more out of it, because not only do you get a personal connection with your peers, but you get personal connections with your professors, and they're not only worrying about the 150 other students, they're worried about your smaller class sizes. So overall, I think it just really benefits you. They are hard classes. STEM classes are hard classes, that's true. Some might be easier for certain people. For me, anatomy was okay. Chemistry, horrible. I don't recommend, I'm joking. But maybe that's somebody else's preference. So, don't be scared. You're gonna do great, regardless.
And if I could kind of chime in on this one too, I've had harder classes here than at the university level. So if you're kind of like me and you're afraid of that next step, I've had harder classes here.
Thank you for that addition, Mark. We also wanted to ask you what advice you have for students who are planning to transfer into STEM programs.
So if I could offer some advice for students looking to transfer into STEM, I would say get involved in something that is in the industry or field that you want to pursue. And I say that, so get involved in like an internship, research, part-time work, or something along those, or some type of club. Those are all good to be involved in. One of the things that I think that you should also do is be in touch with like your professors, or be in touch with different people who are actually in that industry. So that way, like, you can kind of like figure out if that's like the actual career and field that you want to go into. Because I'll give you an example. Like while I was in school, I did research in turf grass management, and I figured out real quickly that I don't want to go into turf grass. But I did enjoy the research part of it though, so that was fun. That was a fun part of it, but I learned from it. So.
My advice for going into a STEM is to have kind of a broad picture of what you like, not necessarily focusing in on the specifics, which is actually a mistake that I made. I was going into nursing because I was convinced that I was going to be a labor and delivery nurse. That's what I was going to school for. That's what I was going to be, period, end of story. And then as I worked my way through school and then finally graduated, there weren't that many L&D positions available after graduation, so I had to shift gears and think, what else could I do? And so I went into the operating room as an OR circulator, thinking, I'll do my 2 years here and then I'll transfer to L&D because that's what I want. But then I got into the OR and I met my people and I love it, and the OR is my place. So don't limit yourself by saying this is what I have to do. Keep your mind open, keep things on the horizon, and just take it one step at a time. Do the next right thing. Finish this class, know what your next class is, ask people who have been where you are, just like you're doing today, to see what steps you can take to be successful.
Thank you. Now let's get some more practical advice based on your experiences. If you could go back in time and give your community college self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Okay, my advice to my younger self would be that I wouldn't rely on all of my courses to make my resume look awesome and competitive, because I think everyone's taking the same classes Even a lot of people are taking the same clubs. And one thing that I realized when I'm looking at resumes for people to join the team or things like that is the people who stand out with creative projects or side things that they did are the ones that we pay more attention to. And I think that it's really easy to do a project on your own and, you know, learn a lot from it and put it on your resume. Like my example right now is my wife, she can't sleep without listening to Friends on. And if she wakes up in the middle of the night, she needs Friends on, even just the sound. So I downloaded audio from Friends, and I'm putting it onto a little Arduino, and I'm gonna 3D print a little box for it that all she has to do, if she wakes up, she presses a button, and season 2 audio plays from Friends, right? And like, no one told me to do this. I found instructions online, but I could so put this on my resume. And I promise that they would love that. So just find a project that you want to do in your own time, put that on your resume in whatever field you're in, and I think it'll help.
So if I could go back and give myself a piece of advice, I think it would be to come up with a plan. And to give some more context for that, at the time that I was in school, I thought of, it probably wasn't the best mindset to have, but I thought of it as a means to an end. I didn't have the most confidence in myself. I really put having a career on a pedestal, and I honestly believe that I did not deserve a good career until I got my degree. And that's not the case. If I could go back, I would have started, researching the field that I wanted to get in. What companies are in the area. If I wasn't, set on this area, then what opportunities are there available in whatever area that I want to live in. I'd see, what can I do with my degree plan? And I didn't do any of that. And so once I got to the end of my college career and I graduated and I had that paper, I found myself in a position where I was thinking, okay, what now? I hadn't done any research. I started applying for roles that, showed bachelor's degree required, but I didn't actually do many extracurriculars at the time either. So if Josh saw my resume, he probably wouldn't have hired me either, and that's okay. But I would have definitely had a plan. And as you do this research, one thing I tell people is if you see a job or a career or an opportunity that you're interested in, look at the role, look at the rec, because you could really use that as kind of like a game plan for your development. Even if you don't have all the skills that role requires, you could get those skills. You could take classes, you could learn more about it, you could apply for internships. There's different ways. There's different ways to help you there.
Next question: what opportunities at TCC should students take advantage of before they leave?
So when I was here, I felt that I needed to learn how to study better. So I did a lot of the labs here. There was like a math lab that I would go to. And when you start using those resources, you have similar resources at your university. I think it's also just a part of building that habit here, and then it'll transfer over with you. Doing events like this helps you make social connections. Who knows, maybe at some point you'll be at a panel like this because you met somebody, right? So please talk to the people around you, professors. Those are the connections that will end up helping you as you move on. Yeah.
Thank you. That was very good advice. What study habits or routines help you to succeed through STEM classes?
Say that figure out your learning style and tailor your classes to you. Your instructors have information that they need to get to you and a limited amount of time to get it to you. So you need to take some personal responsibility for your learning. And if sitting in the class and watching the PowerPoint isn't what works for you, then you take notes or you make notes about topics that you are struggling to understand, and then you go and you look up a YouTube video on that. I did a lot of YouTube for certain classes, and I would find instructors who enjoyed teaching, obviously, and I'd like their teaching style and the way they explain things, and so then I would, save those instructors and then see if they had covered topics that we were learning or disease processes or whatever, so that I could help myself learn this information. Also, try to find ways to make what you're learning relatable in your everyday life. For example, when I was in microbiology, I took a missions trip to Sierra Leone, Africa. And we had to cross this river, and there was supposed to be a boat to take us, and there was not. And we had to walk through this river in Africa. And everyone else is like, it's fine. I said, your eyes are not microscopic. I sounded just like Dina Berg talking to us when we were in microbiology class. I'm like, you do not know what's in this water. So just find ways to take what you're learning, make it real, make it relatable, and find out how you learn best and take responsibility and supplement with what you're learning in your classes.
Yes, that was really, really good advice. How do you balance schoolwork with family and personal life?
So balancing school, work, and family in my personal life. I would like to say that I divided up everything evenly, but that was not the case. Whenever you are trying to pursue something that you really want to achieve, you have to make a sacrifice. So one of the things that I sacrificed was my personal life because I had to work. I have a family, have bills to pay, so I had to work. And then my main focus at that time was pretty much school. And so during that time, I made the sacrifice of pretty much not having a personal life because I knew that making these small, short-term sacrifices would lead to my long-term goals. And so that was like the biggest thing for me, was just always keeping that in the back of my mind, that it's not forever, that I can't like hang out with my friends or do fun stuff. It's just in this time period that I really can't do anything, and I need to just focus on making my life better. So.
All right, so we've kind of gotten things started. Our moderators have asked some questions, and now John Martin and Jeremy Smith are going to have a couple microphones to come around so that you guys can ask questions. So who has a question?
As far as like getting internships and stuff like that, what would be your advice for coming to professors, maybe at the university level, to pursue those? Do you guys have any advice on that?
Yeah, so sometimes professors will actually reach out to their students. I did research at UNT for 3 years there, and it just so happened that I was looking at my emails. So reading your emails is important because they're like, we're looking for a research assistant. This is the pay, this is what your qualifications need to be. And they're more than likely always looking for someone to help them out in the lab. So just talk to your professors. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. They'll lead you in the right direction if they don't have a position for you.
And also, kind of the same thing, my professors, one of them, she used to work at a manufacturing plant for IC chips, so she was still had a great partnership with them, and they would come to her for projects. And if you talked with her and you had a good relationship with her, which you could from office hours, you could go and you could be a part of her lab, and then that could lead to other things. Like, I mean, you can put on your resume that you worked designs for the specific company, and that looks great when you're applying to that exact same company. So, and then also like at the career places, the career counseling places, one guy said to me one time, he's like, I got internships ready, locked and loaded. When you're ready, just let me know. And then last thing about internships, I guess, is that I applied to probably like 100, you just got to put some good TV on and go for it. Okay.
Hi, you mentioned side projects, and I was just wondering what kind of side projects would stand out to you if you were looking at somebody's resume.
I think that it doesn't need to be specific. A lot of times, anything that just led us to drive conversation with, yeah, but this person did that, or anything that helps us remember you is valuable. It doesn't even need to be like specific skill set or anything like that. It just needs to be initiative. And one thing that people look for is, do I want to work with this person? Are they cool? Because you got to work with them every day. So the more you can make your resume look enticing or show off your personality more, it might help.
As an OR nurse supervisor, I would get the resumes for potential employees, and I would always look to see if they were involved in any groups or committees, things like that. So I would know that this person, has a voice, they want their voice to be heard, and they're not just going to be sitting back, but they're going to be an active part of making our place better.
Also on my end, anything that shows leadership or responsibility. We look for a lot of that, and if you show that you could be relied on, then that's definitely a step in the right direction. So.
What's your biggest motivation tip for when you're feeling stuck in a rut while doing school, or just feel like you're burnt out? Because I know, especially during exams, it can just get exhausting when you feel like all you're doing is school every single hour.
I really recommend working out. As a kinesiology person, it helps reduce stress, right? But also making sure that you have not only talking about good habits, but don't overwhelm yourself by packing your day, right? There's going to be times where maybe you can't be as social, as we were saying earlier. You can't be as social with friends, and STEM classes, they do require a little bit more than, of you. And on top of that, you want to look good for your programs. So you have to make sure that we're able to kind of balance things out, make a checklist, go to the gym, do some meditation, right?
And if you feel that you have to study, just change your environment. Sit outside, sit in the sun, go to the park, go to, a coffee shop, just somewhere different where your environment has changed, the four walls around you is different, and that can help as well.
I was going to say the same thing. Change your environment and go outside to do your schoolwork or something. Whenever I was in school, I found a spot on campus. It was actually in the garden at A&M, and there was this, it was an oak tree that had a chair and a table, and it was close to the building that had Wi-Fi, so I could do my work, and nobody was even out there at all, and I could just do my work right there in nature and not really be trapped in my room doing my work. So that's the biggest thing. Change your environment.
Okay, I would say sometimes you gotta give yourself a little dopamine hit. If you need to Pavlov yourself, maybe just say, okay, after an hour, I'm gonna go get a cinnamon roll, and then I'll lock in again. Or like at UNT, they'd always have bingo, and they would give really good prizes. So letting myself have scheduled time away where I could potentially get something cool, like some socks or something. And then, build time in, or reward that study time, you know.
And don't be afraid to give yourself a break. You know, even to this day, when we're, you know, deep into problem solving and we kind of hit a roadblock, you know, my peers and I will take a walk around the park. I work in downtown Fort Worth, and there's a park right outside our office, but we'll take a walk in the park just to kind of get the feet moving, change an environment, and you'd be amazed by, you know, how much we're able to solve just walking around.
So I had a question for the panel. Backstory, my wife's a nurse too, yay. And she went through the Dallas Community College experience, but she always had the problem when she would apply to a state school, because, you know, money's money, you know. She couldn't get accepted. She always kept on getting rejected from, you know, UTA, UNT, all the state schools. Does the panel recommend to go ahead and just, if it's your dream to be somewhere in the STEM field, to go ahead and make that leap to a private school, so that way you can get into the field and just you'll be able to have the money to pay off the loan later or to pay the bills?
I would think that is going to be really personal for you and your budget. For me, I was able to go through TCC and then on to TWU, but I know people who've gone to the more expensive schools and now they're nurses. They're making the same as I am. They're in debt more than me, but if that's a burden that you're willing to take to get to the goal, it might be something you need to do, but that's really going to be more what you and your family thinks is best. On a side note, check out scholarships everywhere you go. I know that there's foundation scholarships available here that I took advantage of. There was scholarships at TWU that I took advantage of, and I went through TCC and TWU, and I did not pay 1 penny for my degree.
Okay, I would say that two different sides of the coin there. I know there's pressure to, you know, you gotta, time's ticking by, but if it's a lot of money, so sometimes it might be worth it just to apply again next semester. But also, if you are gonna try, you should try it applying for a private school and just to explore the scholarship opportunities. My wife went to TCU, but she got a scholarship and it paid for most of it. So, you know, just nothing wrong with exploring both options, but it's better to be a nurse at 30 than with no debt. I don't know. You get what I'm trying to say. Okay, that's it.
While we're waiting for more questions, I do need to give a shout out to John Martin. I heard your name and you were my statistics teacher. You did a great job. Thank you.
And just to add to that last one, you know, I also think that, you know, I'm a firm believer that if you have your mind set on something and maybe the first time, the second time, even the third time it doesn't work, it might be time to, you know, seek feedback, you know, maybe kind of look into yourself, what could I be doing better? What is something that I could do differently in order to, you know, make myself stand out? And I think maybe a little bit of networking could, you know, benefit as well, because maybe find somebody who's in the program, you know, see what they did. You know, I love learning other people's journeys because, you know, everybody has a different journey that got them to where they are. You know, I didn't start out as a STEM major. I started out as a business major. And now I'm a data analyst. You know, 4 years ago, I never thought that would be the case. I had to teach myself how to code. And I just think that, you know, getting out there, you know, meeting different people, learning what they did, and, you know, seeing like what you could take away from their journey.
And any other questions? Yeah, excellent questions. Thank you all for contributing. We're going to take a small pause in things here, but we're not done. But we want to say thank you to all the panelists. Weren't they wonderful? Yeah, thank you guys, really. They have brought some interesting perspectives to share and kind of again be thinking. We're going to have a little bit of time in a minute where we're going to have the panelists at these tables and you can have a chance to talk to them in a smaller group setting. So if you had some questions that maybe you were a little bit nervous to ask, we're going to spread them out. You can come and talk to them. But before we do that, we wanted to say thank you, and we have some gifts for them. And since we're going to break up, yeah, go ahead. We're going to bring gifts to them. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. And then I want to thank you, students, for coming, because you're the reason we're here and you're the reason we're doing this. I'd like to ask you just for a minute if you would scan this QR code. This is a student engagement survey. It's a way for you to let us know if you enjoyed this, if you would like more things like this, what else you'd like to see. This is how our college gets data and uses that data to make decisions. So we would really appreciate it if you would fill that out. Be honest, give us all your opinions, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all right? And while you're doing that, let me see if I have anything else I have to say. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna let you do that, and as you do that, we'll give you a couple more minutes. And then I'm going to ask all of our panelists, if you noticed, before they came up and sat on the panel, they were sitting here at tables. We're going to have them come back to tables so that you can ask them individual questions, talk in a smaller setting. Let's see if I can remember where everybody was. Josh Ayala is our engineering representative, and he'll be kind of at this table in the middle. And then Cameron Grant was here with horticulture, or if anything else he said spurred some questions. Mark Hopp was over here at our data analytics table, but business, data analytics. And then Daisy, we had her over, yep, right over there was her table. And then Holly was here for nursing. So those are kind of where they're going to be. We would love for you to come up and talk to them. In addition, I would encourage you to come check out, right here is a library table. The library comes to each one of our events and brings some books. They can tell you the resources that they have, and you may not be able to see it real well, but I have this cool little pin on my jacket. They have cool little STEM So What pins. So if you rush over there quickly, you can get one before they run out. Also, we have some representatives at a table right around the stairs from our QEP Faculty Mentor Program. So different faculty on our campus are available to serve as mentors, help you think about for sure what pathway you're on and what the steps are that you need to go through to accomplish your goals. So they are there and would love to talk to you as well. So we have lots of kind of places that you can go. We do have representatives from the biology club here as well. So several different things, but in our last few minutes together, if you want to go and do that, that would be wonderful. So panel, I'm going to let you get up and go to your tables. Thank you all so much. All right, come on down and stalk a panel member.